This is video lesson Inferences and Conclusions number 2. You should only be here if you have completed Inferences Conclusions lesson 1. Let's go ahead and start taking notes on making inferences and drawing conclusions. First, we're going to review what you have learned about making inferences and drawing conclusions. Remember that when you make an inference, you read between the lines to find an idea that the author suggests but does not state directly. Let's go ahead and write that in now. Notice that I went to the edges of the margin in order to fit in the whole definition of making an inference. So please be sure to do that so you can fit the entire definition, which is, remember that when you make an inference, you read between the lines to find an idea that the author suggests but does not state directly. When you draw conclusions, you add up the information in the passage to figure out what the author means but does not state directly. So let's go ahead and complete that definition. So you add up the information in the passage to figure out what the author means but does not state directly. Remember, state directly means that it's not an actual sentence in the passage. It means that you have to figure out what the author means based on different pieces of information. To make inferences and draw conclusions, think about the main ideas and decide what the author wants you to understand. You can also combine information from the text with what you already know, which, if you remember from last lesson, is your prior knowledge, to figure out the author's ideas. Okay. So let's go ahead and look at the next part. We're going to read the following passage. As you read, ask yourself what inferences you can make and what conclusions you can draw. I was preparing to shovel the snow-covered sidewalk. As I dug around the closet for my boots, a bottle of soap bubbles rolled out. It was about half full, and I could hear the wand rattling inside. I took the bottle with me. The snow lay like a thick blanket. Nothing was melting, not even the icicles hanging from the trees. I opened the bottle of bubbles, swished the wand around, and then blew into it. The bubbles floated into the air like they always did, but as they fell, something unexpected happened. They changed from quivering liquid into hardened orbs, like stained glass. When they hit the ground, they shattered. Okay, and if you can see this little side note, it says to remember to access prior knowledge. So a lot of us growing up in LA, we don't know that much about snow or what it's like to be so cold outside that liquid would actually freeze. But we do know about bubbles, and we know from science that when it's really cold, things that are liquid can turn to solid form. All right, let's look at the next part. It says, use this graphic organizer to help you draw a conclusion about what happened to the bubbles that the character made. So you're going to start with what I read. We read that the bubbles hardened outside. What I know it is cold outside because there are icicles and snow. So my conclusion is what we already said, that the bubbles froze because it's cold outside. So let's write that down. The bubbles froze because it's cold outside. side. So we just drew a conclusion about what happened to those bubbles. The author never told us that the bubbles froze, but we were able to draw a conclusion that that's what happened using our prior knowledge of knowing what happens when it's cold outside. Okay, let's go ahead and turn the page and use what we learned. So let's read the directions first. Read the passage, then answer the questions by making inferences and drawing conclusions. On a separate sheet of paper, make a graphic organizer to organize your thoughts. Okay, so we're going to make our graphic organizer down here at the bottom. Let's go ahead and do that ahead of time so that we are ready after we read it. So I remember from looking at my first page, where did that page go? Here it is. That there are 3 boxes. The first box is going to be what I read, the second will be what I know, and then my conclusion. So let's go ahead and draw that at the bottom of the second page so that we're ready after we finish reading the article. So I'm going to draw 3 boxes. The first one is going to say what I read. Make sure you're doing this now so that you are also ready. The second one is going to say what I know. What you know is called prior knowledge. And the third box is going to say my conclusion, right? This is where we're going to have a conclusion about the article, about something we think the author wants us to understand. Okay, let's read the passage now. Did you know that people are not the only ones who require dental checkups? Tooth problems can also cause excruciating pain and disease in animals. So what does a zoo animal do when it has tooth trouble? It sees a dentist. However, the animal does not go to the dentist like you do. Instead, the dentist makes a house call. Typical zoo dentists spend most of their time with human patients, but several times a year they stare into the jaws of numerous animals. Zoo dentists repair broken teeth, perform root canals, and clean the teeth of animals such as bears, tigers, rattlesnakes, gorillas, and even 3,000-pound rhinoceroses. Zoo dentists do not tell animals to open wide. The dentist makes sure the animals are completely asleep before they get to work. It is better for both the patients and the dentists. Okay, so let's use our new strategy of using prior knowledge and the graphic organizer to draw conclusions and make inferences. Number 1 says, why don't the animals visit the dentist like people do? Okay, well, I'm going to use my prior knowledge first to think about why an animal wouldn't visit the dentist. We can use our graphic organizer to help us answer this question. Okay, so let's look at what it says. The first box says what I read, then we put down what I know, and then we come up with our conclusion. So why don't the animals visit the dentist like people do? So let's see what it says. It says the animal does not go to the dentist like you do. Instead, the dentist makes a house call. Okay. So one thing it says also at the bottom about it is the dentist makes sure the animals are completely asleep before they get to work. Okay. I wonder which one of these things would have to do with why don't the animals visit a dentist like people do? Well, making a house call means that the dentist comes to the zoo. So what I read, I'm going to write down, the dentist makes a house call. Then what I know from my own knowledge is that, well, of course, animals can't drive themselves to the dentist. And if people try to drive a 3,000-pound rhinoceros to the dentist, that's going to take a pretty big truck or some kind of equipment. I mean, that seems pretty complicated. So what I know is that it's probably really hard. So I'm going to say it's very difficult to transport animals Okay, the author doesn't tell us that, but I know that from my own prior knowledge. So I can use what I read, the dentist makes a house call, and my own, what I already know. It's very difficult to transport animals. My conclusion, answering this question, why don't the animals visit the dentist like people do, is that it's too hard. It's easier, actually, it's easier for the dentist to travel to the animals, right? Instead of the animals traveling to the dentist. So you can go ahead and use our conclusion as your answer for question number 1. Let's look at question number 2. Make sure before you move on to 2 that you pause the video and write down your answer in a complete sentence under question number 1. Okay, number 2 says, do human teeth and animal teeth have similarities? How do you know this? Okay, well, let's look at the passage because we want to make sure we get everything straight from the passage. Okay, so the passage doesn't tell us these are the similarities of human teeth to animal teeth, but it does give us some information that we can use to draw a conclusion or make an inference. And that is when it says what the dentists do to animal teeth. It says right here, zoo dentists repair broken teeth, perform root canals, and clean the teeth of animals. Okay, when humans go to the dentist also repairs our broken teeth. They perform root canals on humans, and they clean the teeth of humans. So that tells me that I can probably make an inference that human teeth and animal teeth do have similarities. And the way that I know that is because they have the same treatment from the dentist. So go ahead and write in a complete sentence your answer to number 2. Hit pause and come back when you're ready to answer number 3. Let's look at number 3. Why is it better for the patients and the dentists that the animals are asleep before the dentists get to work? Again, the author didn't tell us the reason why, but we can look at the story and figure out what the author wants us to understand. So let me look at what type of animals the dentist will be doing work on. I see this word, bears. I see the animal tiger, rattlesnake, gorilla, 3,000-pound rhinoceros. And then it says, zoo dentists do not tell animals to open wide. The dentists make sure the animals are completely asleep before they get to work. It is better for both the patients and the dentist. So I'm assuming the reason why it's better for both the patients and the dentist is so that nobody gets hurt. I mean, I wouldn't want to pull out the tooth of a 3,000-pound rhinoceros. He might get mad and hurt me. So if the animal is completely asleep, he won't feel anything, and therefore he won't be able to react to anything either. So go ahead and make sure you answer question number 3 on the line in a complete sentence. Once you finish lesson number 2, you are ready to move on to the inferences and drawing conclusions quiz. It looks like this. It says inferences/conclusions quiz. You are going to read the story. Make sure you write down your answers on the paper first. Then you're going to input it into the computer underneath Inferences Conclusion Quiz. The answers will pop up. You will score yourself out of 7 here. If you get 5 to 7 correct, you can skip lesson 3 and pick a new topic. If you get 0 to 4, then you do need to complete lesson 3 before moving on to a new topic. Don't forget to record everything in your progress tracker.